Hello and welcome to my review on this Miele Bagless vacuum cleaner. This is the Miele Blizzard CX1, and it's the white version, or the basically the top of the line comfort version, which I purchased earlier in the week from Curry's. As on previous videos, I would have said that this was a ex-display model, which I got for a lot less than the current price of £400, which is what these are selling for at the moment. This is because this is the 1200 watt one, rather than the current, or the Eco new EU 2017 regulations 890 watt version, which is pretty much exactly the same as this, but it just has an even lower energy motor in it. Now, I had a couple of issues with the bin on this because it was an ex-display model, and I did know about those problems when I bought the machine, which is why I got it for a substantial reduced price. I have been using it for the last few days, and in general I've been quite impressed with its performance on carpets and in the hard flooring there. There has been I did do a small test on it yesterday, in which I put some dirt down on the carpet, and I did do a recording of that, but unfortunately the machine wasn't able to cope with a large amount of mess taken in very quickly, and it did clog up the primary separator. I will probably put a bit of dirt down on the carpet just to demonstrate it again on this video, but I have to be careful because I've done big mess tests of other machines in the past and they've all pretty much passed. But this machine is not really designed to be able to cope with a large influx of fluff and dirt in one go. Roger of Ibasiac did a demonstration of this very same model on his channel, and when he put his dirt down on the carpet he found exactly the same problem, in that the machine lost suction quite quickly because the primary separator, the mesh cone basically in the primary separator, got clogged. It's able to cope with normal levels of household dust, it spins those out quite well, and the pre-motor filter doesn't tend to get dirty very quickly. It gathers the fine dust, which is what it's designed to do, but it doesn't have large particles of dirt getting into it. So if you use this cleaner basically for just general household cleaning and the general household tasks, what it's designed to do, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now, I can't say about whether long hair would be a problem with this, because I don't have long hair and there's no one else who lives here apart from me, and I've got a short-haired cat. So basically it copes with my dirt and the cat's fur very well. But I can't say what it would be if you had ladies living in the house with long hair, whether that would get wrapped around this internal primary separator inside here. But basically it works on the same type of principle as what the Shark machines do, in that the dirt comes into the chamber and spins round in a miniature cyclone chamber before entering the proper bin. And rather than having the foam filter, which is what the Shark does, this just uses a pleated filter instead, which is separate from the main bin, and I'll go into that. But what I also want to do in this review is to compare this machine to another two Miele Bags machines that I've got down there, which is the C3 Complete and the C2 Compact. Now they're older versions known by the old names, which is S8 and S6, but basically they're the same machines as what most people now would know as the C3 Complete, which is the white one, and the C2 Compact, which is the red one. And I'm going to just compare those in a little bit to see how the size and the weight measures up. But anyway, that's the little sort of introduction got out of the way, and what we're going to do, I will just go through basically what we get with the machine when we buy this. This is the 1200 watt version, which is still being sold in quite a few of the shops. I believe that the 890 watt is pretty much the same, has the same tools, accessories. I just need to get one of these other tools from here as well, because this came with it too. Right. So, let's just get the camera off then. So we're going to have an in-detailed look at this machine now. So this is the Miele Blizzard CX1 Comfort, which is basically Miele's first attempt at a bagless vacuum cleaner. Now these normally aren't cheap. They are very expensive cleaners. They start around about the £300 mark, and this one, being the top of the line one, is retailing for around the £360 to £400, depending on where you buy it from. Like I say, you can get discounts on the older version, which is what this is, which is the 1200 watt. So this machine, it's essentially came out, I think it was earlier on this year or late last year, as Miele's first attempt at bagless. Initially, when it first came out, I didn't particularly like it very much, and I thought, well, I certainly won't be getting one of those at those sort of prices. I thought I might consider it if the prices come down and I can get it for a reasonable price, but they don't come up second hand on eBay very often. So being a pretty new model, and the prices are high, people aren't generally buying them. If they want a bagless cleaner, they're just going for the cheaper brands or going for Dyson. Miele aren't really known for doing bagless machines, and they don't sell these in America yet either, from what I understand. Most people would go for those two types, so they are two of the most common selling ones, which are, like I say, the more expensive ones, the bigger one on the right, that's the C3 Complete, and the one next to it is the C2 Compact, which is a slightly cheaper machine, but it's also smaller and lighter. So this machine, whilst it's in storage mode, basically you can store the wand or the rod, basically, rather than storing it on the side like you would on the standard bagged Mieles. This one has the storage space on the back of the machine, and I find that by twisting the head around, like in this position, it gives it a slightly smaller footprint, because it's quite a bulky machine to store. This is on the back here. Let's just have a look at this while it's exposed to the light. We've got the stock label. We'll just wait for the camera to focus on that. So you're basically seeing it's the SKME2 model number. It is the maximum 1200 watt version. This is not made in China, it's made in Germany. There are certain Mieles now that are made in China. I've seen one of the American reviewers that did one on the, I think it was the C1, I think it was, the base model, that said assembled in China on there. So I'm a bit concerned that Miele is starting making machines in China, but this is made in Germany. On the bottom here we have the dynamic drive casters, which are fitted to the higher models, which have like very soft rubber tyres on, which don't clatter as they're pulled across the floors and door thresholds, sorry. On this one, as opposed to the other ones, there are 4 casters on this machine, so you've got 2 at the bottom there and 2 at the top. Obviously it's to give the machine a bit more stability. Standard Mieles, bagged ones, would have 3 casters. The rod itself is a slightly different design to. We'll get the rod off the back. If we just put the camera down here, we'll do that. I'll just lie the machine flat on the floor. Okay, so the wand itself, or the rod, is, like I say, it's a slightly different design to the usual Miele design over there, which I'm sure people have seen before. I don't want to go into too much about what those are, because the review's supposed to be more about this than it is about those. So this one here, I would think, is more like similar type to what I would have found on my Siemens or Bosch cleaners, in that they don't use the push button fixing to extend the rod. This uses like a collar which you move up and down. And as you move the collar up and down, like this, you're able to push it down and then extend the rod to whatever length you want it to. and that is also the rod is also a different kind of shape as well. It's not like round, it's not a circular rod. This has got a more of a shape, just more of a sort of a, I don't know, sort of a triangular shape with a rounded bottom part and very sort of squared off parts down here. It's hard to describe what the shape is, but it's basically a different shape of rod to what you had on the bagged machines, which were round. Also has slightly different clips on the top here, and a slightly different fixing on the bottom. The floor head that you get supplied with the machine, if I just take this off here, again with the Miele it is a click fit, so you would be able to click it off here. It is the Miele Ecotec Plus floor head. This is a slightly narrower nozzle to the bagged Miele. It has the two settings as you would expect for a combination floor head. It says Ecotec Plus on there. But the difference is that it has this flexible pipe in the back, which it's got a good range of flexibility on the tube here. It has the two wheels on the back. I mean, this is a very, very different floor head to the older type. The older type would have had a sort of a cigar-shaped single wheel on, but this has two individual wheels. It is rather dusty underneath. That's from where I tried the big mess test with this yesterday. It was able to pick it up in here, it didn't clog here, but like I say, it didn't cope with it in there. Now this seems to be a more common pattern with Miele's at the moment, is that they are now starting to use plastic base plates on all their floor heads. It's not terribly much of a problem, but long-term durability, I can't really say whether that would wear away faster than what a metal base plate would. But you've got your traditional lint pickers either side of the opening, good long length ones, a nice wide opening here as well, but you do notice that the side suction channels are blocked off. This being the Eco head, it focuses all the suction down through the carpet and provides really good pull down. So much so that if you're on the higher settings you have to reduce the suction, you have to reduce the motor power to be able to move this nice and easily. Now I find that on the maximum power it's very hard to push it. It's reasonably hard to push it on the second one down, and then on the third one down, which is the next one up from minimum, it's fairly easy to push. So you need to experiment with the different powers according to what type of carpet you've got. And like I say, in here it's just a short pile, cut pile carpet. And to be quite honest, I'm quite impressed with the way this pulls the fine dirt out of the carpet, because it grips the carpet more. I would rather that, you know, so that I can actually feel it doing something as I'm pushing it backwards and forwards. It doesn't pick up pet hairs particularly well, but it picks up just about everything else. So if I wanted to pick the pet hairs up, then I would put the turbo brush on it. That didn't come supplied with this machine. That is the turbo brush I've got off one of my other machines, basically. But you can buy those separately from Miele. I think they sell them in Currys as well. They're about the 50 to 60 quid mark, those turbo brushes. But to also be aware that they won't work with the 890 watt versions of this. I will go into that in a little bit. More about the turbo brush. But basically, yes, that's the Ecotec Plus forehead. You have the button that you press down and it extends the bristles out for hard floors. It works very well on my lino in there because I can adjust the suction, push it nice and easily. So that's that one. This also came with the Parquet Twister XL floor head, which is basically a dedicated hard floor brush, which also works well on my lino floors in there. I did do a brief demonstration of this on earlier videos. So this is more of a talky sort of video, really, this one. You'll probably see this in action later on the Just Vacuuming videos, when I'll probably just do a video entirely concentrated with doing like a daily cleaning session with it. But this is the, like I say, the Parquet Twister XL. It's very manoeuvrable, it's fully articulated on that joint. So you really will enjoy using this on hard floors. It's a really good head, and I believe that the machine called the Blizzard Parquet comes with this as well. But it's just an additional head in addition to that comes with this particular model. So that's that one. It didn't come with that, like I say, but you can purchase those extra. Now, if we stick the floor head back on the bottom here, we can have a look at the handle at the top. Now, on lower models in the range, what they do is they come with this same type of handle, which is different to those type of basic handles there, that this has a proper hand grip on it, what they call the comfort handle. Lower models in the range have a very similar handle to this, but they have an integrated dusting brush here on this part. So when you take your wand off like this part here would have the dusting brush integrated onto it, and you could slide it down. The dusting brush on this machine, however, because it's not that particular model in the range, comes supplied with just the basic Miele dusting brush, and that comes loose from the machine. It doesn't store on the machine, so you need to be careful you don't lose this. You have to keep it separately. One of the reasons why it comes separately like that is because this machine uses an older type of handle, but it uses the one with the remote control. So basically you're able to use these plus, minus and on-off buttons to control the machine. The machine doesn't have plus minus buttons on here. The lower models in the range actually have a turn dial knob very similar to the one on the red machine over there, where you can adjust the suction by turning the dial. But this one is more similar to that machine, the white one, in that it has the lights on it like this, and you control those basically from the handle grip. So you can start the machine in the minus mode, and that will start it in minimum. Pressing that will start the machine in the maximum mode, and pressing that one will pause it and start it in the mode that it was last used in. And you have obviously a little indicator light to show that the battery is working and that it's transmitting. It's a CR2032 little coin cell battery that this uses, and you would undo that screw to remove this part from the handle and replace the battery. I've never had to do it yet on the other machine I've got, but I don't really use that very often. They say to do it every 18 months in the instructions. The hose itself swivels at the hose end. It comes out of the handle very easily, like so. So it just goes proves there's no electrical connections in the hose. It's a standard, normal, wire-free hose, and this control solely works on RF radio frequency. So the hose itself is supposed to be crush-proof. It's around about 1.8 metres long, which is slightly shorter than a standard Miele hose. And as well, it comes out of this end of the machine very easily by squeezing those tabs in. If I compare the hose here to a standard Miele hose, you can see that this has black stripes inside the hose, whereas this is all grey. Okay? So that's a very, very big difference. And I believe the newer style Miele's in this type as well, also, according to Hoovermaster, who did a review of one of these type of machines yesterday, he showed the hose on that one as being this grey and black striped hose, unlike the older type, which are all grey. So that's a bit of a difference as well. So we've gone through the details of the hose there. As I say, it's a bit shorter than what they used to be. I will just plug this back in like that. Right, so that's the hose and the tools gone through. Here's the machine itself. You have your comfort rewind button, which basically you would pull your lead out like so. Now what I would normally do is, because this is quite a strong recoil on this, I would normally hold the cable, press the button, and then do it like so, rather than having it smack hard onto there, which could crack this. I usually always hold the cable while it rewinds. Okay, so that's a comfort rewind. You press it once and it all recoils in at once. You have the name of the top on the top here, Blizzard CX1 Comfort power line, and it has 4 levels of power, unlike the other type, which has 6. If you look at that one there, it has 6 power levels on. This one does away with the ear setting and the armchair setting, basically, because it's only a 1200 watt. It doesn't have the sort of power levels as that one. There's your on and off switch. So the switch setup there is a very similar switch setup to that machine. Very similar buttons. On the side here you have your parking bracket where you can stick your floor head for parking it when it's in use, like so. It's also rather different to the one on those which have it in the back. On the side here is a dummy vent. No air comes out of that side, but it does come out of that side. So your air, you feel when you're using it and it's on this side of you, you can feel the warm air blowing across your feet. Just inside here, which is not removable by the user, is a lifetime HEPA exhaust filter. Now on the previous video to this on my channel, I actually stripped this machine down and I actually show that exhaust filter inside the machine. So it is definitely in there and it is a proper HEPA pleated filter, but you can't change it. So it's important to realise that you must always make sure your filters are in place on this machine. On the back here you have a small upholstery tool, which again is different to the older style. This I feel is a more cheapened version. It's a lot smaller, it's a lot lighter, but I think they had to do it really like that so that they could get it to fit into these little dedicated gaps. You've also got this small crevice tool. That is pretty much the same as what you get in one of those machines. And that fits on there. And the next brings us onto the Bagless container. So in order to remove this, you would have to pull this handle up and then lift it off the back of the machine, like so. The Bagless container here shows the primary separator, which is like a small cyclone chamber in the top of the machine, basically that circular part. So the dirt would come in to the machine via that port there, which leads to the hose at the front, at the bottom. It goes in to this port here, comes up that pipe, and then enters the cyclone here. It then spins round inside that first chamber, inside there, spins round in there, and when it gets to the end it's flung through that hole and then enters the lower part of the bin down here. There is another little tiny filter set up on the side there, which every so often you're supposed to grab hold of the bottom of the inside of this part and then pull that out and then clean that, because the dirt does adhere to that side of it. And as you can see in here, I have used it quite a bit and the bin does get very dirty inside. You've got your max line here, so you shouldn't really fill it above that. It is on a machine which wasn't damaged like this one was, unfortunately. You would empty the bin by pressing that orange latch across and the bottom of the bin would drop open. Now on mine the latch is damaged. It's one of the reasons why I got it cheap. So what I have to do is just to stick a couple of pieces of tape, one there and one there, just to hold this closed. And when I empty it, I just replace those two pieces. I can live with that at the moment until I can get hold of another bin with a decent clip on. But basically, you'd press that, open the bin, drop it out. Now, also what you can do is to be able to clean that part, is to pull that handle out and then remove backwards, and you get your primary separator mesh cone out. So your dirt enters from that pipe there. It comes up and spins round inside here. The idea is that it spins fast enough to avoid getting stuck to this. But if you flood the cleaner with dirt, that will get clogged, that mesh cone. And that's the problem I had yesterday and the problem Roger had. Overloading the cleaner with dirt will clog that up, but it's easy to clean it. So that pushes back on there and then closes up. So that's the bin. This is the filter here. Now every so often the machine will perform a filter clean in which there's a little motor inside the top of here which turns this cog. And as it turns this cog, there's little tiny fingers inside which flick the insides of these paper pleated filter. Now I can remove this by twisting the top. I can't do it without the camera there. So you've got your little display there. You click it and remove it, like so. And there we have, this is the fine dust filter. Now, unlike the cheaper versions which have it actually inside the bin, this is in a separate container, okay? The idea is that when it operates those little fingers inside there and twists them round, it flicks the insides of this, dislodges the dirt from there and causes it to drop down into the bottom of here, and then it basically fills that container up, and you empty that once in a while, or rinse it out with water, maybe twice, 3 times a year, they say. So that's that. So we can lock that up. That then goes back inside there and clicks closed. Now, what you have, I'm going to just plug it in, and we'll show the Comfort Clean working on it. So I'm running out of time here again. So in order to make the Comfort Clean work, what we've got it now is it's plugged in and it's on standby. So that basically pulsates brighter and shallower and dimmer as it's on standby. To turn the machine on, we would have to press this button, so on minus. That's now coming on in minimum. Now, you can have the bin on or off to perform this clean, but basically if you wanted to clean the filter, you press that button and hold it for a couple of seconds until it lights up yellow. The machine turns off. The machine has to be on to start with before you press that. And then what it's doing basically is operating that finger inside there, and you can see the pleats moving as it's flicking the dirt off. So what that's basically doing is simulating you going out to the dustbin and whacking it against the side of the bin. So all the fine dirt now has dropped off that and gone into the bottom of that container where it accumulates before you end up cleaning it out. The machine automatically does that every so often itself. So you'll turn it on and it'll switch itself off, and it'll do that itself. It can also light up red if it's done the clean and then it still senses that there's still an obstruction to the airflow. In which case you would need to, let's just turn that off. You would need to remove it and clean it underwater, basically. So that red light means that basically it's tried to clean it itself, but it's unable to get the airflow, so it needs to be properly cleaned. Right, so that then pushes back inside there, and the handle slots down. Now that is a very weak point as far as I'm concerned, that connection. You've got to be careful not to pick the machine up by the back, otherwise this could come off. It's not all that strong and secure, that bin on the back of that machine. Always carry it by this handle. Right, just for the last minute, just a couple of minutes or so, I'm just going to push it round with the turbo brush on. And we can hear that working. It just about has enough power to be able to turn that turbo brush on maximum power. But you have to have it on maximum to be able to do it. This is just a very, very short push round because I'm running out of time on this video. It only allows me half an hour recording time, but I've got about a minute left. Right, so we'll use the handle grip to turn it on maximum. Okay, I'm running out of time on this video, I'm afraid, so if you want to see the proper demonstration of it working, I'm going to have to do a just vacuuming video where we do nothing but clean with it. As I say, this is a bit of a talky review explaining the features and the benefits of it. I've compared it a little bit to those machines there. The question is, do I recommend it? Well, you're going to have to look after it. They won't stand up to being knocked around. They are, you know, it's a bit like the upright version. You're going to have to look after it. You're going to have to maintain it properly, make sure it doesn't get clogged up. Don't use it to pick up large amounts of mess. If you don't want to be maintaining it, I'd just recommend going for a badge machine over this one, because these are expensive. We'll have to see whether Miele improve their offering with later versions, but at the moment, get one if you're prepared to look after it and maintain it. So, I shall see you again on the probably